Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I talk about an anime that I liked a lot. And then sort of fell off in season 2, and then, sure enough, really liked again in season 3. That just debuted earlier this year, and that is To Your Eternity. And the biggest thing about it is it does some cool things with its premise, and yet kind of fumbles in kind of the way it progresses, if that makes any sense, where it doesn't feel like it's a complete home run, despite what the first episode really does. The first episode really hits hard, and in terms of like setting tones, this thing is like the best thing, and it's kind of crazy. So the creator or the beholder or the man in black, and let's see, voiced by, I believe, Corey Yee. Yeah, sorry, I've got the list here. So I might have some of the names and I don't have some of the others. I don't know why this has most of the names but doesn't have everybody listed. But anyway, Corey Yee, the man in black, at least in this version. I think in the Japanese version or in the manga, it's the beholder. He's an immortal being. He's kind of bored. So he creates this immortal being known as Fushi. And Fushi doesn't have a voice, doesn't have a face, doesn't have a name, doesn't have anything. He is an orb, essentially. He's a sphere. He's a pearl-looking thing, essentially. But he is put in this like desolate world with this boy, voiced by Jacob Hopkins, and the boy suffers mightily in this world. Now, Fushi takes the role of this dying wolf, and the boy takes him for a pet. But as the episode goes on, you can start to see that their relationship starts to suffer because the boy is either passing away out of hunger or not dementia, but insanity or cabin fever or just something. The world he's in is just ice. It's like he's in Antarctica or something. It's crazy. So what really makes this work is like there is dialogue, but there also isn't. It's mainly just them together fighting the elements. And it's a rare situation where there's just so little going on from that perspective, but there's so much being told with their eyes, with their actions, with their motivations, and Fushi trying to figure out, what is this place? Who am I in the guise of this wolf? The boy ends up dying, and then, so yeah, sorry, spoilers for 3 seasons worth of stuff. I might not do too many spoilers of season 3, but yeah, the boy dies. And the reason it's important is because Fushi takes his form. And that's the kind of the main form he's going to take for the remainder of the show. The face, the voice, the clothes, and the mannerisms. Fushi's basically just going to take this as his own. What he ends up finding out is that everybody he meets that he forms a relationship and a bond with, if they pass on, he can take their form. And that becomes kind of the through line for everything that happens, is that he has their skill set. He's kind of like, I don't know, a shapeshifter and like Morph, or something like that. Morph from X-Men or something like that. Just big old shapeshifter, and can do anything that the person could do. And anything that it showed that the character can do. But he also like learns skills. He learns things about the world, but he learns things that he can do. He's able to create things out of nowhere if he's eaten them or seen them or moved them or something. So he has all these powers, and of course he's immortal. But he is accosted by these things known as Nokkers. And the Nokkers are like ever-present parasitic threat, which is good and bad. Like, having a threat like that is good, but I do find that their motivations, like Fushi's motivations, eventually are hard to kind of come by. Like, the Beholder of the Man in Black created him out of boredom, and he ends up saying as much at the end of season 3, and it's just like, well, okay, you use it as an experiment. Would you want Fushi to save the world? Because that's what he's basically been doing for nigh on 800 or 1,000 years or some shit, because he can do that. But we don't really know that until he progresses through all of the people that he's met and all of the time periods. One of the things I was hoping they would do would be kind of Assassin's Creeding this stuff, and they would go from very early, like, jungles and Dark Age stuff to the Middle Ages, which they did. But then season 3 would have been maybe like Revolutionary Era or Edo period, for sake of, a more Japanese aesthetic. Like, Edo would have been a good place. And then, maybe our Taisho era or something, steampunk. And then go to modern day in like season 4 or 5. They didn't do that. They jumped from Middle Ages to modern day. And I don't know if they're going to do more. Like, they left it kind of open-ended where they were going to go with it. Because, like, they had a lot of shit packed into 3 seasons. Because they went 20 episodes per season. They didn't go 12 and then stop and then do another core. No, they just went 20 episodes full on and then called it a season. So a season and a half, basically. And being like, okay, this is pretty good, but I wonder if they're going to keep going. But season 1 is about learning about the Nokkers, but also like going through different people that he meets and understanding things and like which ones are important. And the one that I find most important is March, voiced by Sarah Ann Williams. Her whole thing is like, she's a kid that was supposed to be sacrificed to some god or some bear or something, but she takes a liking to Fushi, and her whole thing is crazy because, like, she's this small girl, 5, 6, 7 years old, but she acquits herself and she claims she's an adult and wants to do adult things and wants to live, and takes Fushi, who knows jack shit about the world, and tries to give him some advice. But the problem is March and her sister, or I believe Perona is her sister, they get accosted by this character, Hayase, voiced by Kira Buckland. And Hayase's whole thing is she sees Fushi, and I forget if she is met with a knocker first, or she develops it and then goes crazy and apeshit. I think she was crazy and apeshit first, then went super fucking crazy and apeshit when she met Fushi, because she went fucking yandere, right? And there's a tone in there because it's a thing that happens. Hayase, and she gets a descendant here and there and everywhere, and I do think season 2 kind of fumbles this, where they don't act on it. And I've always wondered where it would go, and I almost even wondered if season 3 with Mizuha, voiced by Dawn Bennett, would have gone there. But they didn't. And I don't know, like, it goes with where the Knocker's motivations are, because she infects herself with a Knocker. Well, she gets infected, but then just kind of like rolls with it and just lives with it and accepts it. So she's kind of like bent to their will, but she takes on just this insane yandere form. And I'm almost just like bemused by how crazy she is, and how crazy Mizuha is by extension later on in season 3. And I keep wondering, like, are they gonna go in a way where because they establish early on that the Nokkers want to rule the world, but Fushi can stop them. But they also have the power to like eliminate him and separate him from all of the hosts that he creates. So all of the people he meets and takes into himself, like they can discard him and then turn him into nothing. Their whole goal, I think, is to turn him back into nothing and then destroy him. But it gets kind of like mixed messages, because season 2 is all about protecting a castle with several different people, some of whom end up becoming part of his entourage later, but also just like going into this Middle Ages world and trying to fight off like crazy cultists, crazy like religious zealots that may or may not be used against the Nokkers, or maybe being infected by the Nokkers too. But the Nokkers keep escalating and escalating and escalating, and Fushi kind of figures out that his way of fixing this is to like put roots of himself into everything. It's not enough that he has 20 or whatever vessels that he can choose from to guard himself. It's not enough that he can like create things on a whim, which he learns. He just learns innately to create and learn things. So whether it's from March in the first season or Tonari and her friends in the second season, there's a lot of things going on with Fushi where it's just a lot of learning how to protect, because he eventually becomes a protector. That's kind of what the Beholder, the Man in Black, wanted him to be in the first place. But still, I do find that the Nokkers' goals get mixed messages, especially in season 3, because they establish in season 3 in modern day that they're like microscopic beings and they only do so much, and they kind of stopped, and like the world is good and proper and whatever. And Fushi wakes up and like a lot of it ends up still being in this weird like Mizuha loves him but doesn't really, and you wonder, like, is she being infected by the Nokker? Does she go crazy? Has she gone crazy already? Like, the spirit of Hayase just lingers on in just full yandere mode, and I'm almost like thinking, and I said this before, I'm like, what if they acted on it? Like, the first few episodes, you try to figure out what's going on with Mizuha, and it was kind of weird, because I thought, like, the second season, just focusing on, like, tower defense and siege warfare and stuff, protecting this castle, kind of, like, lost momentum for me. And then season 3, I was wondering where it was going to go, because they go from Middle Ages to modern day really fucking fast. But it's a story about Mizuha and being infected by Nokkers and junk. And then just the absolute insanity of what happens to her, her family, other people around her, because she's not only a descendant of Hayase, but also has a Nokker inside her that is looking for Fushi. And again, they confuse the issue. Like, they're never quite sure if the Nokker wants to love Fushi to figure something out, like to create a new being between the Nokker and the immortal being, or if like falling for him somehow makes him mortal, or they want to, I don't know. It's never quite adequately explained. They play it more for the yandere-ness of it. They never like fully explore it. They kind of like get to the edge of it, of like, could they fall for each other? Like, are they friends? Are they not friends? Fushi, for his fault, spends a lot of the third season just like, I'm going to protect everyone, it's going to be fun, because he's like, I have to do this because nobody else can, and he's just like constantly like fucking up because he's not sure of himself. And then the Mizuha thing keeps going on, and he's just like, I don't want any of this is stupid. He's not whining like that. I mean, just saying, he doesn't really know what's going on. And he's like steadfast in the Nokkers are evil, and then there are people telling him the Nokkers really aren't. So you can see why I keep going back to the Nokkers don't quite know what they want. They never just up and say, we want you dead. We want to take over the world, which we've already sort of taken, but you're stopping us. But we also want to figure out what happens if we mate with you, sort of, maybe? I don't know. It's weird. And that's not even the weirdest thing in Season 3, right? The weird mixed messages of Season 3, as good as it is, like, a lot of crazy, dark shit happens in Season 3. They go full bore into it. But it does feel like as awkward and fascinating as the Hayase into Hisame, who's part of the second season, like her as a Nokker becoming like this ever-present, like I'm going to meet him, I'm going to become his betrothed or whatever they're looking for. Like, it becomes weird, and then like another descendant is a guy, so he's just like, I just want to be your friend, and like not over it. And then they go back to the Andre shit with Mizuha, and it's like it's weird. It's very strange. I mean, but for its credit, it does still do very depraved stuff and is willing to take chances, because I didn't think season 2 took many. And season 2, like, Mizuha's parents die because she kills them. You know, season 3 has just all the freaking yandere stuff and Mizuha going fucking apeshit and crazy near the end. But for the benefits of that, it has this like weird subplot. I'd say 6 or 7 episodes in with this character known as Mimori. I forget the older guy who becomes her pseudo guardian and pseudo brother-in-law, but whether this was done as a gag or it was done like a satire of these people, because these people actually probably exist, and it fucking disgusts me. But as fun as it is to satire a complete neat otaku loser, the episodes with the dude are sad and pathetic. So even as a commentary of those people, it goes too far, because a Nokker infects this like 4-year-old girl who wants to die or can die or does die, whatever she does. But she ends up going after Fushi because the Nokkers, of course. But as cool as the fight is, there's this undercurrent of this guy, this other guy who has the sister complex and mainly a child Lolita complex, and it's almost pseudo incestual, and it's disgusting. I just, going off those words, you can tell where I'm going with this. It's really kind of disgusting. He sort of redeems himself like 5% by the end of the show when he shows up back again. But the fact that you spend 2 episodes seeing this guy get whipped by this Nokker in a weird way and him kind of enjoying it, and then just all the weird subtext of, I want to protect this person that I want to know because you're not the Mimori I know, because I've been watching you and protecting you, and it's disgusting. So for all the cool, weird yandere shit that I was having fun with, there's the other darker side of that, which just, even for like 2 episodes or 3 episodes, I'm just like, no, just no. The other thing I will say about season 3, other than the fact that it jumps from season 1, season 2, then to fucking modern day out of nowhere. It's like Assassin's Creed didn't know what they were going to do, so they just jumped around to wherever the fuck they wanted. Anybody that was still a part of Fushi, like in the first season or the second season, all of the friends, like I would say like 5 friends-ish, survive both seasons. So they all get brought back in season 3, but because they're still trying to focus on Mizuha as the main, and then do the school arc, Fushi in school, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be fun? Like, all of the people that Fushi knows, and they do have some of them talk about wanting to make a go of their own lives and stuff away from Fushi, but they don't really have any story arcs to themselves. They're always an extension of what Fushi is doing, rather than, okay, they've been brought back to life and they get to live their own lives, but other than Tonari saying, well, we're gonna live here and then die in this world, so whatever. Like, they are shunted very far into the background. For all the cool stuff that Season 3 does, I do feel like shunting a lot of characters that were given a lot of backstory to just being pals in a room or pals in a house just kind of defeats the purpose of bringing them back in the first place, because they all just feel like the same. Outside of Bon something tasty peach, I'm not getting his full name, it's weird, but Bon, right, in Season 2, he ends up kind of becoming the de facto leader of them all, so the Fushi can focus on his own thing. But nearly everybody else is either played for one-note jokes or just side characters at that point, and it does feel like wasted opportunities. And it also does feel like they wasted an opportunity for Tonari, who was slowly kind of getting onto Fushi's side, to play that, like, other romantic interest, because I felt like that's where they were going to go with it, and then didn't really go there. Because they could explore it, and that's why I keep bringing back the Hayase and Mizuha thing, is what does loving an immortal being and them loving you mean? That could be something they could have experimented with, but also, like, they don't want to go down that path, so it's like they kind of skirt it and then, rear back from it just enough, because I guess the show doesn't really need a love story. Because there's still a lot of action sequences and a lot of story about these, two forces, this immortal being and this ever-present, omnipresent guy who created them, who has the power to also stop the Nokkers, and the Nokkers themselves. Like, their motivations still feel kind of spotty. It's like, yes, we want to kill this guy, but then we don't. And then we just want to coexist, but then we don't. Then we still want to kill him, and then we don't, but then we do. And they keep trying to find a common ground, and they sort of do, but not in a way they expect. And it feels like they haven't finished the story. So I'm wondering if they're just going to go into a far-flung future. And did I say that without fucking up? Did I say far-flung future without screwing up? That was nice. I almost said fluture. But what I will say is, it is 60 episodes, so it is an investment. It's not the craziest investment I've ever seen. And I do think the initial first episode hook is really fascinating. There's something about the boy and his dog. A boy and this immortal being meeting and becoming best friends for one episode without too much dialogue between them, just surviving the elements. And then I still believe, like, the first 10 episodes after that are really freaking good. Season 3 really comes back into that. I want to say Season 2 dips quite a bit. Bon, for his efforts in Season 3, like, his Season 2 efforts, he just comes off as really goofy and not the best introduction, so I don't like him a whole bunch, and I don't like the fact that the show focuses on him, and he just gets better later because the show gets better. So there's like a V shape in the show. I don't think Season 3 is as good as Season 1, but there's still really good stuff in it, if you can get past the gross, weird, neat guy, and some of the weird explanations what the Nokkers are trying to actually do, which is not fully explained. But would I recommend watching To Your Eternity? Absolutely. I won't say it's like top tier amazing. The first episode is, but everything after that is still really damn solid. And there's a lot to like about it that I want to keep coming back to more and more. So I'm hoping they do more, because there is a way to bring Fushi back, because he's immortal, just because the Nokkers sort of went away, sort of not went away. You can hand wave that shit if you want. But let's see. As far as To Your Eternity, it is done. But the next episode, other than the anime stuff, will be Breath of Fire 3, the story of Above Average, In the Clear Moonlit Dusk, Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness from Castlevania, No Guns Life, and I'm sure I'll be done with this long before then, but into August I will be talking about Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, which I am finishing on my channel and about more than halfway through. Anyway, that'll do for today. I will see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.